Okay, most of the class is still missing, but I said we'll start in 20 minutes, so let's start. All right, so at this point, your calculator should be doing everything that we intended it to do, except for the square, square root, and plus minus. So any numbers you type and the operations equal, clear, all of this, and in fact even sequence of numbers, it should be doing all of that. Well, has anyone gone ahead and done the square root and square? Not yet? Okay. So we have two choices right now. This we could try and do those, but to me that looks like more of the same in terms of implementing more logic and just doing okay now just square this number and display it, or take the square root and display it. What I want to do is I want to take the class in a slightly different direction, and that is also an important thing to learn. If you go to your storyboard and look at this, the calculator you have designed, you will see that at the bottom it says view as iPhone XR, right? So this, or whatever it is, you may have a different default. Instead of XR, you may be seeing something else. Now what happens if I change it? If you click on it, it gives you all the options available to you. The one in blue is the XR, but then there is iPhone 8 Plus, 8, SE, 4S, all these options are there. If I were to choose, if I say that this app is going to be on the App Store, and people even using iPhone 4S, which was, maybe 7, 8 years ago, it was launched. So even those people should be able to view it properly and use it. And what happens if I choose this? This is what my calculator will look like on iPhone 4S. Completely useless, right? Not even, you don't even see any one of the buttons in its entirety. So what we want is, we want to be able to view it on any of these devices. So this is the original XR. Let's say if I take it to, this has the same resolution, so that is fine. But if you were to choose an iPad, what would it look like? It would look like this. Not ideal. In fact, this app will focus on the iPhones, and what we want to do is we want it to look good on any of these devices, regardless of what it is. So we'll leave the logic of the calculator to where it is. It's doing a lot of things we intended it to do. Some of these, like the plus, minus, square, square root, I will leave it to you. If you are interested and you want to finish that, it's your personal satisfaction assignment. Okay, but for the purposes of this class, we are good where we are. What I want to do now is I want to talk about, so this is what we are doing now. Will this app run on all iOS devices? So you can try it yourself, change it, and see what happens. You will see that it does not look, it does not even show up on certain devices. So the question here is, yeah, this is the other thing you can try. What happens if you change the orientation? People have come to they want to be able to use their device in either orientation. And again, our problem is we only see the display of the numbers. So the question then is, do we have to design separately? Do we have to create one? That would be really, time consuming. And in today's day and age of AI and machine learning, it would seem rather dumb. So there is a way to do it universally so that it will fit any device. And there is also a way you can run it, when we run an app from this Xcode, the default device selected is shown here at the top. Next to this run button, you will see that it says iPhone XR. You could actually choose any of these. Let me see. Let me say I will just choose iPhone 5s and see what happens. Okay, this is what it looks like. I can clear and I can type 123 and still not see it. So how do we do this? How do we make it work everywhere? There are two concepts we will use to do that. One is called stack view. What do you think the name implies? Yeah, stacks. Like a stack of boxes or so there are two types of stacks, horizontal and vertical. So basically a vertical stack is a bunch of views that are sitting on top of each other like this. That is a vertical stack, and a horizontal stack is just in this direction. And what it does is these stacks, they have certain properties. When you put something in a stack view, certain things become common to them. For example, on a vertical stack, you can say that all of them will be of equal width. On a horizontal stack, you can say they will all be of the same height. You get access to things like, okay, in this stack, all these views are going to have a certain amount of spacing between them. Same, you can specify that. You can also do things like, let's say if you were designing an app that showed, for example, the email app, right? When you look at your list of emails, there is a stack thing going on there. You will see an image, and then you will see the name of the person, then you will see a subject line, and there will be a date somewhere. And you can do things like you can say, okay, if there is extra space available, make this thing larger, keep those other ones fixed. So you don't always have to equally distribute. All of this freedom comes with stack views. So that's what we will use now. We'll see how to do that. And then we will use auto layout. Auto layout is used often with stack views, but it does not have to be used with stack views. It can be used on its own on any view. So it allows you to do things like you can say this particular view, make it take up the entire screen. So zero spacing from all four margins. Then what happens is even if you rotate the device, you have a bigger phone, you have a smaller phone, doesn't matter. The operating system resizes the view for you to make it bigger, to make it smaller. It will do all of that for you. Or you can do things like with auto layout, okay, this particular view always appears at the center. So regardless of the screen size, it will appear at the center. You'll see you have seen examples of all this, in your apps that you use. So these are very popular concepts. They're not just specific to Swift or iOS. Android as similar things. And over here, there are these two links I have posted. Well, they're right now in the presentation. I would encourage, if you are interested in, this is going to be a part of the homework as well. You will get a chapter on it. But if you want to master this, go through these, the two tutorials. And this particular website, Ray Vanderlick, this comes up often. If you're looking for tutorials on Swift especially, you will see that this will come up often, and their tutorials are very good. So they have a tutorial on stack views and auto layouts. So I'm not going to be going through the tutorials, but if you are curious, you want to see more details, you want to, explore it even more, just go through these. What we will do right now is we'll use it on our calculator. And this is how we'll do it. So in the calculator, let me bring up the simulator to the side of it. Okay, I better just run it from here. Okay, so this is what the calculator looks like right now. So these are the steps we will follow. We'll embed horizontally laid out buttons in horizontal stack views. So these buttons, which are horizontally laid out in a row, 0 dot plus minus equal to, this will become one stack, and we'll get multiple such stacks, and then we'll embed all those stacks in a vertical stack, and like that we will design this thing so that it becomes adaptable, it adapts to all screen sizes. And this part I would strongly recommend that you follow along, because it's very easy to miss something, or do something that those constraints that get added automatically, they will they can be harder to debug than code. Okay, so let's go back here, and I will make this inspector area visible, and I'm going to do certain things here, and you have all been assigned a color, right? So why don't we use that color now? Select all of these buttons and go to its attributes here. And what I'm going to do is I'm working with the green color. So what I want to do is I want this calculator to look green. So I'm going to change its background color text color. It won't let me change background. Just a second. Hmm. Okay, background is at the bottom. Okay, let's do it again. Select all the buttons. In the attributes, scroll down. Under the view, you will see a background. Choose the background color you are working with. Okay, your text might disappear for a moment, but then you can change its text color to something lighter. I'm going to change mine to white ish. Okay, so this is what my buttons look like right now. You'll see they're all different shapes and sizes depending upon what is in the button. So now what you do is you select one row, let's say the bottom row. So at this point you should see that only the bottom row is selected, nothing else, otherwise there will be trouble. Okay, so select the bottom row, and then below this view, you see there are these four buttons. Let me talk a little bit about them. The first button is embed in. It's, if you hover over it, it will say embed in. What it means is it allows you to embed things in other types of views. And one of them is the stack view. So choose that, choose stack view. And you'll see what happens. Immediately, two changes you will notice. On the left, you will see that a stack view got added, and it is a horizontal stack view. This part Xcode detects for you. And these four buttons went inside that, right? Now let's do it row by row. Don't select all of them, otherwise it will put all of them in one stack and you will see a one long line of buttons. So we have to do this row by row. Now select the second row and say embed in stack view. It's okay because I had all white. If you are happy with your colors, just leave it like that. That's an optional part. If you already have, I see you have a red background there. Yes. So I'm doing it again. So watch this. I did that here, right, for with the bottom row. I'm doing it with the third row, but you can do it with the bottom. Just select those four buttons. With your mouse, you draw a box around those four. If and nothing else should be there, only those four. See, right now only these four are selected. And then you click on this button, the first one. There is one that is grayed out, but this one, the down arrow, and then you say stack view, embed in stack view, and it will put those four buttons in a stack view. And do it for all the rows, the same thing. Okay, so now all of a sudden you will see that here in your hierarchy, view hierarchy, you've got 5 stack views, one for each row, and you've got a number display which is outside right now. So now what we want to do is we want to select these 5. So you can select in the view hierarchy or you can draw a box here. Either way is fine. But you want to make sure that all 5 are selected. So everybody got the horizontal 5 stacks? Okay. All good so far? Okay, now select all 5 of them and again do the same thing. Say embed in stack view. So now we have got a horizontal stack with these 5. Okay. Okay, before we go further, let's fix how it looks. So from your view hierarchy, once again select these 5. Okay, not the one, the horizontal one, the 5 not the vertical stack, the 5 horizontal, these with the buttons, and go to this attributes inspector. This is where you can play around with how it looks like. Okay, the first item here should say stack view, and you will see it has certain properties. Axis is horizontal because these boxes or these views are laid out horizontally. Alignment is fill. What it means is how the buttons are going to be aligned inside, and the more important thing for us is distribution. Right now it says fill. We are going to change it to fill equally. Okay, and spacing, what happens is when you create a stack view by embedding existing views, it retains whatever was the spacing between them. What we want is to give it a slightly, give it a uniform spacing, and we'll just, let's say we'll try 2. See what happens. So with spacing of 2, you will see this line appears between the buttons, and the line is not there, horizontal lines are missing because we haven't yet done that stack view. Okay, and don't worry about the sizes. We haven't yet added those constraints which make this expand and take up the whole screen width and all those things. We'll come to that. So far, we have made all these buttons equal size. Okay, and at this point, you can go to the parent stack view, this one, which has these 5. And over here also, we'll make those same changes. We'll say distribution fill equally. And spacing, instead of 0, we'll give it a spacing of 2. So suddenly all those horizontal lines will also appear. Okay, so yes. Press Command Z and undo it. It is not working. Click on the white area and then do Command Z. In the not working. Okay, I'll come and help you. So at this point, you see we have got one stack view, and it's got buttons of equal sizes. Okay, what we'll do next is we will create another stack view so that we can define a relationship between this and all this. So select your number display and then shift and click on this stack view so that 2 of them will be together. And then you again create a stack view. So this is what it will do. It will look ugly right now because this is our number display. Okay. So what we want now is in this stack view, we will change the properties. We'll change the alignment back to fill. You didn't get that? Okay. Let me do it again. All right. So follow along. We've got one stack view. This one, you will see it gets highlighted with all the buttons and a number display, a place to show the numbers. So we want to select both of them. There are many ways of doing it. You could select from here, shift and click, and it will select both. Or you could draw a box around this and it will select both. Either way is fine. And then you go in onto this embed in view and choose stack view. And it puts both of them in a stack view. So what is in this stack view now? The stack of all the buttons and the number display. And this super stack view, at the top, will change some things here. We'll change its alignment to fill so that it fills all the space that is available to us. Actually, it does it in both directions, but here, because of the other parameters, it is fitting the width. Distribution says fill. Spacing, we'll change this spacing to something smaller, let's say 10. So this becomes our calculator panel now. It's got the display here and it's got all the buttons below it. Okay, so this we have created a palette, and this is pretty much, this is sort of what is going to be expanded or shrunk based on the device size. So what do you do now? You want to tell this thing that, okay, take up the entire device space available to you and do it everywhere on all devices. And here is how you will do it. So make sure that you have this selected, the top, the parent stack view, which contains the whole thing. Okay, and now we will explore some of these other buttons. The third button says add new constraints, and constraints is how we tell this storyboard the operating system, how to lay this out on any device. So choose this, click on this, and it will say add new constraints. And right now, actually nothing is active. You see these lines, they will appear as dotted right now, which means they're not active. This, what it is showing is the present value. And what these four values are, it's distance from the four sides. So what you want to do is you want to change this to, let's say we want to give an equidistant, we want to leave a little bit of space from all four sides. So you change all these four numbers to, let's say, 5 points. And as you are changing them, these lines will become solid. If you have already got a 5 somewhere and the line is dotted, you can click on it and it will become solid. And then also make sure you select this constraint to margins, otherwise it looks for the nearest neighbor, which means you could have a label at the top that has your name on it, your calculator, stuff like that, and then it will look to that. Right now we want the entire device. So this is what that box should look like. 4 solid lines, the same number in all 4 boxes or whatever numbers you prefer, and constraint to margins. Okay, everybody got this? Okay, then you say add 4 constraints. It should read add 4 constraints. If you have by mistake selected something else, this number will be different. So when you see add 4 constraints, click it. So what happened? Now if you run it, you will see that, okay, looks a lot better, right? Looks more professional. Looks like a calculator. And the problem now is that this has taken up too much space, the one at the top. It has given all the space to that guy. So we have options. We could leave it like this, or we could make these buttons bigger. And to do that, we again go back to this parent stack view. And distribution, we have fill right now. I could say fill equally. Okay, let's try fill equally and see what happens. The buttons became slightly larger. So you have other options, fill proportionally. And fill proportionally, what it does is it takes the existing sizes and creates proportions according to that. So this is where, let's say we want to leave it like this. It's a calculator that has got very large buttons. Okay, so yeah, in the distribution, you have options. Fill, what it does is what it did, we saw it made the first component large, very large, which was the number display. Fill equally also did not help much. It made it slightly smaller at the top. But fill proportionally is what it does. It takes proportions based on what the original size of these stacks were, the views that were in the stack. So fill proportionally. Okay. Okay. Are you seeing any red lines? So sometimes what happens is that the constraints can have a mistake. So for example, let me try to add something that really does not make sense, which is I'm going to say that it also has a width of 800 and see what happens. That didn't help. What I'm trying to do is simulate what happens when there is an error, and some of you, and this is very common, this is one of the most common things that happens with auto layout. So this is something that I have, my experience is that there is a bunch of issues with this. So let's do this all over again. I'll do it all over again, and those of you who have not yet got it, follow along. Because it's very hard to fix. Once you have messed it up, it's hard to fix. It's better to go back to the drawing board and do it again. Yes, Jason. Oh, okay. So what you want to do is just click on this last button and say clear constraints, and then we'll take it from there. Those of you who have it working can leave it like that. Okay, so let's do this again. I'm going to clear the constraints I have. So this is what you should have. Those of you, well, how many of you still don't have it, or have you? Has everybody? You got it to work? Perfect. In this it doesn't appear, but if you run it, you will see it. Run the code and you will see it. I don't know why it is showing like that. Yes, bro. Okay, so let's try all over again. Okay, so what you want is 5 or whatever number of rows you have, stack views with those buttons. So this is mine, is this is this first row, second, third, fourth, fifth, right? And within these, each one of these, you need to say, so if I select only those, I want to say alignment is fill, distribution is fill equally, and spacing is 2. This 2 is what gives that little white line between the buttons. And then I select the stack view in which these are all embedded. So now we are talking about spacing between these five rows of buttons. For this, again, alignment fill, distribution fill equally, and spacing 2. Okay, and then you should have another stack view which contains the number display and these buttons. If you don't have that, then you just select the number display and this stack view of all the buttons and embed this in a stack view. So you probably, most of you already have that. Okay, so at this point we need to configure this stack view, the super stack view, which contains all these buttons in one stack view and the number display. And over here again you want fill, alignment fill, meaning expand things as much as possible, distribution fill proportionally, so that it will distribute according to their original sizes, and spacing we want a small space between the number display and the buttons, so 5, 10, 20, whatever you feel like. Okay, now this view is configured. This is our display panel. This is what is going to expand, shrink, etc. Rotate, you rotate the device, it was going to become wider, stuff like that. So we will add constraints to this. So make sure that you have this selected on your view hierarchy, which means everything, and then you click on constraints, and within constraints you will see certain numbers. The top, these 4 boxes say what is its spacing from different sides. I want all of this to be 5, so I'm going to change these 2 to 5. These 2 showed up as 5, but if you see, pay attention, this line is dotted. It's lighter in color and dotted. In my case, in your case, whatever was the initial position, that number will be shown, and it may not be 5. If you change it to 5, the line will become solid. But since it is already 5, I just have to click this and make it active. If I don't have it active, you'll see at the bottom it says add 2 constraints, only the right and the bottom. I don't want those 2, I want 4. So I will choose all 4, and then it will say add 4 constraints. And as soon as you do that, you will see that your calculator will show up like this. And I don't know why. See this field here, it doesn't show up here fully, but when I run it, it it displays just fine. So I have no idea what that is, and Xcode has its quirks from time to time. So there you go. This is, got it? Everybody got it? Okay, I'll come to you in a moment. So this is what we wanted to do. This is what we just did. Auto layout. We set the size of the, we basically just set the margins, and we did all this adjustment, fill for horizontal stacks, fill within. Okay, and this you can also test. See, how do you see if it's working properly in the simulator? If you go to hardware menu, you have option to rotate this. I can say rotate left. In the simulator, see in that menu at the top there is hardware. So you'll see simulator, file, edit, and then hardware, and then it has rotate left, rotate right, etc. So I just rotated left, I'll rotate it back to right, so it will become the same orientation as before. So now you see the magic. We did not have to redesign it for different layouts, different orientations. It's all automatic. I could, for now, I can go and say, like before, I ran it on the iPhone 5. I'm going to run it again on the iPhone 5, and we'll see what it looks like. So this is what it will look like on the iPhone 5. Okay, everybody done with it so far? So I want to show you how to submit this as the assignment and what exactly you will submit. Okay, so I want you to submit a few things, a couple of things. So one of them is a screenshot. So this is what I want you to do. Open your app in the simulator, whichever simulator. Okay, and then if you say file and new screenshot, simulator, when you run it opens the simulator, right? So run the app and it will open in the simulator. So if your simulator is not running, just click on this triangle and it will bring up the simulator with the app running in it. And then you say file new screenshot. It takes a screenshot and places it on your desktop. This is what we'll need in a moment. You'll see that it will have created a screenshot on the desktop. This is what it will look like. And the other thing you will submit is your project. How do you submit your project? You find the project folder. So inside the folder there are all these other folders. You don't want that. You want the main folder, not the ones inside. So in that folder, when you are looking at that, so the folder that contains this file, Xcode project, right? This is what Xcode opens, Xcode project. So you don't want that. The parent folder, right click on it and say compress, and it should say the name of your project. And when you compress, it will get compressed and saved right alongside it. And these are the two things you will submit. So this is what it is. And now if you go to your Blackboard, you should see under assignments. Okay, so we'll stop the class here. I will post the links to these tutorials if you want to go through. We've just done this. So I just want to take a quick feedback. Show of hands, how many of you thought that today's class was just at the right level of difficulty and challenge? Okay, how many of you thought it was very difficult to follow or to do? No. So then it was the right level. How many of you thought it was very easy? Okay, there are a few people who thought it was easy. So on average, it seems like a good level of challenge to maintain. Okay, good. So next week, I'll give you a preview. Next week, you will start another type of app. It's going to be a multi-view app. So we'll create multiple views. We'll learn how to link one view to the other, how to carry information from one view to the other. And all of that you will do through development of a game. A very simple game, but still a game called tic-tac-toe. All of you have played it. So you will develop an app to play tic-tac-toe with a friend, and you will learn how to store the history of the games and how to recreate past games, how to do animations, all of this. So that app will take us about 3 classes to finish. And that is also going to be an in-class assignment. So we'll start next week. Okay? All right. Okay, sure. So those of you who want to leave, the class is finished. So see you next week.